Welcome to Institute of Legal and Management Studies, India's premier legal and management studies portal.
Welcome to The Explainer. All right, today we're going to tackle something that can feel, well, a little complicated: stock-based compensation. If you're in HR, you know this stuff comes up all the time. Our goal here is pretty simple: give you a clear, confident breakdown so you can talk about it like a pro. So you hear the terms thrown around, right? RSUs, stock options, vesting, cliffs. Ever feel like you need a secret decoder ring just to get through an offer letter? If you've ever felt that little knot of confusion when talking to a candidate, trust me, you are not alone. We're going to clear all that up. Okay, so what are we really talking about here? When you strip away all the jargon, share-based compensation is just about giving your people a piece of the pie. It's a way to pay them for all their hard work, not just with a salary, but with a real, actual stake in the company they're helping to grow. And why do companies bother? Well, because it's an incredibly powerful tool. For sure, it helps you attract and keep the best people. But you know, the real magic, it's in the alignment. When employees become owners, they start to think like owners. And that right there is how you build a powerful culture of shared success. Okay, let's get into the nitty-gritty. To really wrap your head around stock comp, you've got to understand the two big ones you'll see all the time: stock options and restricted stock units, or as you'll hear them, RSUs. They might sound kind of similar, but trust me, they work in very different ways. First up, we have the stock option. Honestly, the best way to think about this is like a special kind of coupon. It gives an employee the right to buy a certain number of shares at a price that's locked in today. That's the exercise price, sometime down the road. It's a right, not an obligation. And then you've got restricted stock units, or RSUs. Now these are different. With RSUs, you're not buying anything. An RSU is basically a promise from the company that says, hey, we're going to give you these shares of stock for free in the future, as long as you stick around and meet some conditions. Okay, let's really put these side by side, because this is where it clicks. With options, over on the left, it's all about the right to purchase. The employee actually has to pay that exercise price to get the stock. So they only have real value if the stock's market price goes above that locked-in price. But now look at RSUs on the right. That's an outright grant. No cost to the employee. So they have value as long as the stock itself has any value at all. I love this little saying. It just simplifies everything. It's a great line to have in your back pocket when you're talking to a new hire. With options, you buy the potential. With RSUs, you receive the value. It just perfectly captures that core difference. Okay, so a new hire gets their grant letter with all these options, or RSUs, but they don't get them all on day one. So how does that work? Well, that brings us to a super important idea: vesting. This is the engine that connects the reward to an employee's time and effort. So vesting, it's really just the earning process. It's how an employee gains full ownership of their equity grant over a set amount of time. You can think of it like the company saying, hey, we want you to be here for the long haul, and as you stay with us, you'll earn more and more of your stake in the company. It's a two-way street.
And this right here, this is the classic schedule you're going to see over and over again: a 4-year plan with a 1-year cliff. So it starts on the grant date. Then nothing happens for a year. After that first year of service, bam, you hit the cliff, and the first big chunk vests, usually 25%. After that milestone, the rest of it just starts trickling in, usually every month for the next 3 years.
But here's a key thing to remember. Vesting isn't always just about time. While that's the most common way to do it, these awards can be tied to other kinds of goals too.
The one we just talked about, that has a name. It's called a service condition. And it's exactly what it sounds like. It's super straightforward. You earn your equity simply by staying and working for the company for a set amount of time.
But then you have what are called performance conditions. This is where things get interesting. Here, vesting is tied to the company hitting specific, measurable business goals. So an award might only vest if, say, the sales team hits its target or a new product launches successfully. It's a direct link between reward and results. And finally, there's a third type: market conditions. This is when vesting is directly tied to how the company's stock is doing in the market. For example, maybe an award only vests if the stock price hits, let's say, $50 a share. This creates an incredibly powerful alignment between the employees and the shareholders. Okay, let's touch on one last, slightly higher level concept: Now, don't worry, you don't need to be a CPA for this, but as an HR pro, it's really good to be aware of how these awards get classified on the financial side of the house. So, when a company designs a plan, they have to make a pretty critical choice. Is this award going to be classified as equity or as a liability on the books? This decision actually matters a lot. It impacts the company's accounting and can even change how an employee ultimately gets paid out.
So from your perspective in HR, here's the bottom line. Look at the left. An equity award has to be paid out in company shares. The promise is stock, period. But a liability award, on the right, that gives the company an out to settle it in cash instead. This gives the company some flexibility, sure, but it also creates a bit of uncertainty for the employee and, frankly, a headache for the finance team.
Okay, so let's pull all of this together. We've talked about options versus RSUs, we've walked through vesting. What does this all mean for you in your day-to-day HR role?
What it means is you now have this awesome toolkit at your disposal. You can clearly explain the difference between an option and an RSU. You can totally demystify that 4-year vesting schedule with the 1-year cliff, and you can confidently answer those tricky questions from candidates. This is how you build trust and become a real partner.
And really, that's the whole point, isn't it? You're now totally ready to turn what can be a confusing conversation into a really exciting one about ownership and shared success. So think about it. How are you going to explain this to your next new hire? Thanks for joining us for this explainer.
Visit ILMS Academy for various courses from contract drafting, RTI, labor law, GST, and more. Get certified to enhance employability.